Hey, and good Thursday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel with the weather report here on your December the 11th, 2025. Your no-nonsense weather guy, your guy here. It's going to bring you the facts, keep you straight, keep you prepared, not scared. We're a no-nonsense weather channel here. We do not treat every storm as the storm of the century. We bring you the facts. And if you like this approach and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you on board. Our mission's here real simple, to give you the weather facts and not the fiction, and to kind of cut down on the social media hype. There's enough of that out there, isn't there? I think there is. Anyway, let's get in today's report, shall we? Again, looking at yesterday's highs, lows, extremes. We were at -8 in Crosby, North Dakota yesterday, and our hot spot was 91. Well, that was a warm day. Pala, California. That was our extremes yesterday. All right, we got a couple things we got to talk about. We got this Arctic air we got coming in. We got sub-zero temperatures is going to come in for a big part of the country, probably the coldest we've seen so far this winter. That's part one of the story. Part two of the story is this major pattern change that's coming at us for the end of the month. And I hate to say it's the Grinch who stole our Christmas weather, but I really think that's what we're going to be seeing, all right? Been seeing a lot of social media traffic talking about, oh, we're still going to get a big blast and coldest temperatures since 1989 in the East. I'm not buying it. I think a pattern shift is coming, and when you get that, it takes a little while to shift back. Now, with that said, I think it'll probably be maybe the end of the month, going into January, maybe we see the colder pattern come back, but a big warm-up, I think, is coming our way. But in the meantime, we got to get through some very, very cold Arctic air, man. I'm telling you, this is really cold stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the weather update for today. Let me get this thing out of studio mode. There we go. All right, so let's go take a look at our current weather map here. Again, pretty quiet. Other part of the weather story has got to be the drought and the dry conditions here across the south. La Nina has definitely been having an impact down here. That's not getting enough rainfall. We're not getting enough systems. West Coast has also been pretty dry. This is the time of year they're supposed to be getting an inundation with some rain, but the storm track has been up to the north. High pressure been off the west coast has been a problem there. And we continue to get these systems that are basically coming over the top, coming down this way and going that way. But the only area I think that might stay a little bit on the chilly side to the end of the month, maybe New England. That's about it with the pattern changes coming at us. So we're getting this, we got these clipper systems. We got one coming down and we got another one coming behind it. We got two of them. And with that, that's going to be some very bitterly cold air. Here's current watches and warnings. You can see the track pretty clearly here of these clipper systems. And the one that's sitting over here in Montana right now, boy, it is really dumping some heavy, heavy snow. Let me show you the radar there real quick. I mean, when I see bright banding like this, oranges, and I mean, that's like heavy, heavy rain. That's some heavy, heavy snow, man. That's in Glasgow, Montana. There in eastern Montana, not too far from Missoula. Getting some very heavy snows there for this morning. I was trying to find a decent webcam there. Couldn't find one to try to show you that. It's also still dark out there. But yeah, pretty heavy snows there. They got winter storm warnings up in that area. You kind of see that right there, the pink in there. You got some pretty heavy snows up that way. And looks like they will be seeing that come to an end a little bit later today. All right. Now, as far as thunderstorms are concerned, it's still not looking, no thunderstorms for today. That's your Thursday. Friday. Saturday, however, could see some thunderstorms here going down to the Gulf Coast. So we're talking about areas there going from Georgia over to the Texas coast. Let me get my pen up here. Didn't use it the other day, so I got to turn it back on. There we go. And so you see that area right through here. Again, nothing severe expected this time. Just might see a few thunderstorms with that. But from a convective outlook standpoint, that's about it. You don't really get a whole lot of thunderstorms this time of year anyway. And but right now, looking pretty quiet on that front. All right, let's go get into the model data. Let's talk about this. Here is our systems. Obviously, we got our one system here tracking out. We got one clearing the northeast that's coming on through. So here is what's going on right now. Watch that timestamp. You got that in the upper right corner. So there's that snow path coming through Iowa here for later this evening, coming into Illinois, coming down into Kentucky, going in toward tonight. And that'll dump, I mean, that's a fast-moving system. That's why we call them Alberta Clippers, because they move very quickly. And you can see that dumping some snows maybe into the Smokies and into Virginia, northern North Carolina, maybe a little bit there, and pulls on out. And then we look into what goes on here, and we're starting to see the first signs of this cold air up here. This is a 498. That is some very cold air. That's the height, and that's just telling you how cold that air is. And it's going to start dumping on the south. You see this little dip? See the little dip here coming right there? that snow dipping around, that is the cold air coming into Saturday. So this is some very frigid stuff coming in behind that system right there. All right, that's going to be dumping the snow as well as some very cold air. We're talking sub-zero, probably going to see some -20s, I think, for lows coming in with this system. All right, behind that system. All right, so there's that snow track. Again, for the next 60 hours, yeah, you pretty much can see that upwards. But look at this, somewhere in Montana, 15, 16 inches over the next 20 hours, down where we were looking at that heavy snow, up near 10 inches. So pretty impressive snows there across Montana. But there's our track for the next 60 hours. Takes us to Saturday at 1 o'clock. All right. Now, let's look at the temperatures. Here's the loop. Here's that purple. That's what you're looking at. That's that very cold Arctic air. And it's starting to spill on down going into Saturday. And it's going to be even more impressive going into Sunday. But Saturday's when it starts that Arctic invasion, going into Friday night, a little bit across the Dakotas, and then really pushing into Saturday. See, coming Montana, coming into Minnesota. And yeah, seeing some pretty cold temperatures there. Let me back that up a little bit. I'm going to back that up to the morning time here. They were right there. So we're looking at -12, -11, -9, -8, and single digits down in here. So very, very cold air. And this is going to pump all the way down into the south and into the east here, going into Sunday and Monday. So a very, very cold air mass here. All right. So here's the pattern. All right. So we're short term. Let's focus on the short term first. Okay. So we got the one cold shot. Here's the current one. Here's the next one. But after Sunday, things are going to change in a very big way. I got a little disturbance there on Monday, but look at the pattern here. We're going very zonal. Cold air is going to get locked up here in Canada, and going in toward Christmas week. I mean, that going into that week, it's looking pretty mild here, especially across the south. So it is the Grinch who stole our winter weather, because it's going away. The only place they're going to be cold is maybe the extreme northern tier and the northeast. That's going to be about it, folks. It is going to be looking pretty doggone mild here across a big part of the country. I mean, look at this going into the 23rd. I mean, look at that. There's no cold air. It is all up here to the north. Whoops. All pretty mild here. In fact, just kind of give you a snapshot look of that once again. Let me switch over to this here. Again, the Grinch here. I'm going to put him back up there. The freezing temperatures are sitting probably right up in here. And all this south of this is 60 degrees plus across a big portion of the country there. So again, long range outlook. This is go 24th, subject to change. But I do agree with this pattern change happening. And if that happens, it's going to take a while for that cold air to come back. Probably not till after the first of the year. All right, so that's what it's looking like right now in that department. So here we go with our rainfall totals here. Pretty limited here. Get back over here. There we go. As you can see there, pretty wet out here on the West Coast. Very heavy rains starting to come down. California, you know that we start seeing rains in California again, which we haven't seen in a while. Even getting down there into the middle portions of the state, we know a pattern change is coming. Limited rains here in the west, in the east. We thought we were going to get a decent storm system middle of next week, but that's backed off. So continue very dry across the southwest, south central, southeast, still looking limited rains, and still looking at some decent snows across New England. All right. Now let me go ahead and switch this back over here. There's one thing I did not do, and I want to go back to the simulator radar here. All right, let me turn this back on here. We're going to show you we're going to go back day by day on this. Let me get my timestamp back up. There it is. Okay, it's up. All right, so again, we're not looking at any major storm systems. These are all little, all of them. There's nothing really that stands out other than this big Arctic blast, which look how packed these lines are in here. And these are your heights, okay? This a 504. This is truly a little piece of the polar vortex breaking down just a little bit, and this comes on. But once this pulls on out, and I've seen this time and time again historically, you get a big cold shot like that, you get a back opposite on that. And by the time we get to the 16th, what we call our freezing line is sitting way the heck up here. All right, so the cold air is going to evacuate out of a big portion of the country and likely going to stick with us here. Again, no big storm systems. Still get these weak ones coming on the west coast. We get a little more rain there on the west coast. Here's that system on the 18th, much, much weaker, by the way, than what was shown yesterday. And that's about it here for the next 10 days. West coast gets a little active, seeing that rain out there on the west coast. But most of the country, pretty lame as far as storm system's concerned. All right, there's our snowpack here next 10 days. Again, good snows out in the west. The Cascades, I mean, we're talking feet of snow out here. The Intermountain region of Idaho, getting a lot of snow out there. One of my favorite sites I like to watch on YouTube, Good Simple Living. They're up there in northern Idaho. They're going to be getting a lot of snow. Looking at Montana, again, this is our clipper system. Once the snows go by, the snowpack that's in the United States, which is covering about 40% of the country, it's going to erode big time. Basically just the west and maybe the northeast are going to see the snows by the time we get toward Christmas. I think a lot of snow is going to be melted, especially with the big warm-up coming our way. And here's the warm-up. Okay, here's the next 10 days. Okay, here's that Arctic air. I'm going to show that. Again, we're showing minus 22 on Sunday morning, minus 18, minus 19. So again, there's another minus 20 there. So we got some minus 20s in here. And we got single below zero, minus 6 near, minus 5 near Indianapolis. So we got some very cold air coming in here. Chicago's at 0. So pretty cold there on Sunday morning. This will charge southward. So look here as we go into your Monday morning here. You still look at below 0 near Chicago. We got below 0 all the way to almost to the Gulf Coast. Teens into North Georgia. Single digits here in portions of Kentucky. There's snow on the ground here. So this Arctic air comes over that snow and it amplifies it. Okay, so we got some snow on the ground. It's going to amplify this cold. But then look what happens here, folks. As this goes on by, going into next week, this cold air is going to start to erode on out. You're going to see less and less blue, and you see more and more yellow on this map. Got a little fringe slow there coming on the 18th. There's a little clipper coming on there. Got a little cold shot there across the Great Lakes next week and into Northeast. But look how much of the country is warm up. You see all that green? The cold air really gets confined to the extreme north going in toward Saturday next week. So it's only cold up here. Look, half the country's mild, into 60s in Missouri, into Kansas, Kentucky. That's dealing with a very Arctic air going to be in the 60s by the time we get to the 20th. So big changes are coming. So you just can imagine how this is going to look. Let me show you this. Of course, I forget to reset this again because I'm a bad guy. So let's look at this again. So a lot of red on that map, and I think that's going to hold. This is going from the 16th to the 20th, and then going out to the 24th. Like I said, the Grinch who stole our Christmas weather. Only places that are going to look cold is up along that border and probably here in the Northeast. Looks like there was a pretty good cold shot coming down here, at least in the long range, looking out toward Christmas Eve. And the other part of the story is going to continue to be, because the weather pattern, we're not tapping any Gulf moisture with any kind of storm systems here. So as a result, we're just staying very dry, wet out in the west, and that's going to continue straight in through Christmas Eve. Wet pattern on the west. You want snow? Go to the mountains in our mountain region. You want a snowy Christmas? I'd say New England, Intermountain region out there northeast. I think a lot of the snow that folks have been seeing, like across the Midwest, Kentucky, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, the folks that have gotten snow so far, all that snow, I think by the time we get to Christmas, it's gone. It's out of here. All right, so that's the way it's currently looking as of right now. Who we got out there this morning? We got Mick. Good morning, Mick. And G-Bro, good to see you out there this morning. Appreciate you guys checking us out this morning. We added a couple new folks I noticed yesterday, so whomever you are, if you come in later, again, thank you for coming on by and being a subscriber. I appreciate that. And again, I think we're up to about $55, I think. Like I said, once I get to 100, I'll do another little ad buy. We'll continue to try to attract some folks that way. All right, you guys take it easy. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll wrap you up, get you ready for the weekend. Till then, you guys